Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Momster podcast, which is part of the AmplifyHer Media Network. I am so happy that you've made it back and you've checked back in with me. Today's episode is called Food, Love, and Other Drugs, and I hope you've been following along on the blog. This was posted about 4 days ago, 5 days ago. So if you haven't read it, do go back at any point and take a look, read it, skim through it, whatever the case is. But if you have read it, then welcome to the concluding portion, because in the blog I only talk about food and love, and I don't talk about other drugs. So if you're wondering, Veronica, what other drugs have you done? Or what drugs have you done? Right? That's the $1 million question right now. So, first of all, I hope you laughed a little bit. The quote at the very bottom says, "But does it count if his dad would take us on dates?" It's a good question. I honestly do want to know your answers. Does it count? Should I count him as a boyfriend? You let me know. Anywho, if you take a look at the hashtags down there, this is a blog about addiction. I think it's really important to acknowledge that. So I hope you guys can follow the bouncing ball here. And I wanted to title it this in particular because it kind of all makes sense once I put it all together for you guys. And I hope that as I am talking to you guys about this, I hope that there is maybe a sense of community if you are struggling with addiction, if you are someone that has an addictive personality or that needs to hold on to something, you're not alone. There's help. There's definitely help if you want it, desire it. I'm always here to be a listening ear for anybody, and I'm always here as a resource or to guide you to resources. So yeah. So without further ado, let's talk about it. All right. So food, love, and other drugs. I do begin this blog with my first memory of food, which is a very interesting memory. And interestingly enough, this isn't my first, or it's not just the only memory of caldo gone wrong. Okay. There was one other time where I was not a fan. I don't know if my stomach was already upset and it just became more upset, but do you guys remember those juices called Squeeze-Its? And they came in different flavors and faces. There was there were faces on them and they were plastic and you would like twist off the top. Anyways, my mom had made caldo and she had given us a Squeeze-It, and I had accidentally squeezed too hard on my Squeeze-It, and some of the juice spilled into my caldo, and I don't know what it was, but I instantly wanted to vomit. Instantly was like, no, thank you. What in the world? My caldo's gonna taste sweet. And I tried playing it off like I wasn't hungry anymore, but my mom kind of was like not having that. She didn't have those kinds of excuses. You had to eat your food. So I ate my caldo and I did not like it. So moral of the story here is caldos are not good for you. Just kidding. Just kidding. I am a fan of caldo, so shout out to the caldo. Anyways, moving on. when I go to talk about love, food, love, and other drugs, right? When I go to talk about love, I do end up talking about my mom. And like I said earlier, she was not the type of mom to have any type of excuses, especially when it came to food. I don't know the relationship between or the reason behind why she was this way. But when we were younger, my siblings and I, we had to clear the plate. It was not a request. It was not a please if you can. It was just something that you had to do because for some reason, my mom correlated you not finishing your food with you not appreciating how hard she had worked in the kitchen to make this food. If it was good or if it wasn't good, she did not care. She stood there over a stove and stirred a spoon around and put some shit together, and she needed you to show her that indeed you appreciated her hard work, and therefore you would clear the plate. I think one of the, as I say this out loud, one of the things that's coming to mind is like, oh my gosh, like don't we all want to be appreciated as women, as moms that put in a lot of work? But as a child, I did not know that. I just knew that in order for me to please my mom, and I say it in the blog, you know, she was someone that I was always looking to please. Actually, I'm going to read a little insert of it. So I write, my mother was always someone that I thought of to be a goddess status when I was a child. She seemed so out of reach yet so close. I remember seeing my sister get the care and touch that I yearned for, yet I didn't dare to ask for. I was aware, and maybe too aware, of the toll that motherhood was taking on my mom. She would make side comments that I don't know if she knew I was paying attention, but would say them anyway. Small things like being overly tired, not wanting to deal with certain situations or chores, not having enough help, things like that. As she said those things, I took them as cues for me to save my mom and help her. I slowly became the child that had their room organized and clean because it would please my mom, and I felt something when she would come in and I was not the reason why she was upset. I want to paint the picture for you because part of the pursuit of love towards my mother was the pursuit of approval and obedience. As a Latina Mexican mom, my mom was a stay-at-home mom who would carry the household as such. She had cooked meals, lonche, dinner, cafe, and all the things. However, she is not the best cook in the world or in the house. She also, till this day, refuses to taste her food until everyone else eats. So, as hard as she tries, sometimes her food was not good, but in the strive to please, I would clean the plate. And if you guys aren't following the bouncing ball here, it means I would finish all of my food. And if you ask my mom now, she would tell you that her heart is happy when her kids are eating her food. In essence, I have programmed myself to clear the plate to make someone happy. And through this process, food has made me happy. Has it? So remember that I said that this is a blog on addiction and a podcast on addiction. For me, food has always been this interesting topic. That's what I'm going to call it. As a child, the relationship I had with food was, it was dictated to me how to handle food, which it was clear the plate, clean it, eat it all. There should be not a single crumb of food left on that plate, right? I made it, you're going to eat it. That was it. There wasn't a, are you full? There wasn't an, I'm full, I don't want any more. Because even when there was, even when I would say that, it wasn't an option, right? It wasn't an option for me to, save the rest for later. It just didn't happen that way. And I think it created this, it made the sense of full be non-existent, right? So as a child, when I would go to eat food, my stomach was not off when it needed to be off. It wasn't a feeling of I'm done eating. It was a visual, I'm done eating because there's no more food on the plate, right? So as we think about that, and then we are introduced to, American cuisine, if we want to call it that, where everything is just double portions, right? There just was no escape for me. And if we were to fast forward to high school, I actually had a tough time during that era of my life. It was a difficult time. And I, for some reason, I just turned to food because it would just, I don't know, sweet food would make me feel better. And back in the day, they used to sell honey buns in high school in the lunch line as part of a meal. I don't know. I don't know if it was part of a meal. It was more like something you could just buy, kind of like chips, right? Anyways, these honey buns were $1. And so were the cup of noodles. So for lunch, a lot of the time, I would have a cup of noodles and a honey bun. And that was the beginning of a bad habit. This was my senior year that we're talking about. And I think in particular, my senior year was probably the worst year of high school for me because a lot of my friends were gone. The friends that I had kind of grown up with in high school had graduated a year before me. They were a year older than I was. And so come my senior year, which is supposed to be like the best year of your life, it just wasn't. Like, I didn't know who to hang out with. I did have my BFF, okay, but instead of having this group, it almost felt like it was just her and I. And if she was absent or if she was gone, then it was just me. And like, what was I gonna do? I felt like an outcast. So I would do what I had to do, which was eat my cup of noodles and my honey bun. And I guess that kind of brought on some sort of pleasure or something, right? Like some sense of this is good, or I don't know, whatever endorphins were being released with a honey bun. So till this day, when I feel stressed, anxious, or some sort of negative emotion, my brain seeks something sweet, preferably a carbohydrate in the form of a honey bun. Now, circling back around to motherhood and addiction and food and love and other drugs. I had not made these correlations until after I had the twins. So after I had the twins is when there was this pivoting moment in my life where I was just really angry. And it has to do with a lot of things. But one of the things that I came to realize was that myself, I had just a bad relationship with food. So let me fast forward some stuff here. I think high school, I ended up senior year and into freshman year of college, I ended up weighing at one point 220 pounds in high school, freshman year of college. Not my best times. Now, somewhere in there, they had come out, I don't know if you guys remember, with hydroxycut, something cut. And this was also the time where Ally had come out, which is first it was a prescription drug to lose weight. And if you guys remember the commercials, it was like, hey, you have to watch what you're eating or else you're going to get explosive diarrhea. Anyways, obviously I was a kid. I did not know much of anything. So I didn't take the Ally. I took the hydroxycut. Okay. And along with that and exercise, I ended up losing some weight. And this came after the boyfriend of which I'm talking about in the blog, the one that his dad would take us on dates, he broke up with me. He broke up with me, y'all. Okay, the audacity of this boy is what I'm gonna call him. Anyways, he had broken up with me and I was kind of like on this revenge bod phase of my life. And yeah, I ended up losing a bunch of weight and I had dropped some weight. I felt more confident. And shortly after, I got into another relationship, whatever. Fast forward past that. And at one point I became vegetarian. Fast forward a little bit and I became vegan. And my vegan life, you guys, I was just like, cutie patootie. I was tiny. In this stage of my life, I also had broken up with a boyfriend and I didn't break up with him and then became vegan. I was already vegan, but I was like going on hikes and I was like bike riding and I was doing all these outside doorsy things and I was just so tiny. I think I remember the smallest I ever bought in jean size was a size 7-8. And I had never been that small before. And at somewhere in my Google Drive, I have this picture of me just teeny tiny. And I've never been that small since then. And shortly after I got into a relationship, and that relationship was like the most toxic thing I've ever experienced. And that particular boyfriend actually got me out of being vegan. I loved being vegan. I felt great. I had all kinds of energy. I really paid attention to the foods that I was eating because I had to, number one. but number two, like the sense of this food makes me feel good, like energy wise, that was built during my vegan stage, right? It was like, hey, you know what? Like, this makes me feel really good. The relationship of like honey bun, sugary things was gone. I actually didn't crave any of that stuff. I was truly very happy being vegan. And then this toxic boyfriend comes along, and to please him, one day we were on a date and he was eating this like seafood plate. I don't even remember what the hell it was, but he was like, come on, you should try it. It's so good. How could you not want to eat seafood? Blah, 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 blah. And to please him, right? Remember what I wrote back on my blog, right? I have programmed myself to clear the plate, to make someone happy. And through this process, food has made me happy. Or has it? So in order to please him, because he was a new boyfriend, I ended up eating some of his food that he so insisted to put on my plate. And that kind of was like the end of me being vegan, because all of a sudden he pushed even more, and it was like, let's have this cheese, let's have this other food. And, you know, all of a sudden here I am not being vegan anymore. And I don't know why, but once you've stopped being vegan, even though you've been vegan for a while, going back, it's almost so difficult. I don't know if it's a mind fuck. I don't know if it's like your taste buds or something, but I found it so difficult. And he insisted that I was only trying to be vegan because I wanted to be skinny. And he was so toxic. He was so toxic that at one point he made me believe that I needed to stop being vegan, because if I wanted to be vegan, I was just trying to stay skinny so that other men could look at me. Again, he was toxic as fuck. I was stupid as fuck back then too. And I believed him. So this progression of me going back to eating a regular quote unquote diet, and this toxic relationship just put me back onto a non-vegan lifestyle, and the pounds came back, right, as they will, because all of a sudden there wasn't any control. All of a sudden, we know whatever he wanted to eat is what we ate, and it's not like he had the best diet, right? Like, he didn't. And I think his goal was to make me unattractive to other men. So by the time I ended up leaving that relationship, I needed to move back in with my parents to survive. So I did. I moved back in with my parents, and I'll tell that story another day of what that looks like, or what that looked like. But being back under my mother's roof meant that I was even more exposed to foods that were not good for me. So I stayed under that household for I want to say almost 2 years, and I gained back weight. I'm saying I gained back, but no, I just gained it. You know, I just gained some weight, and it really wasn't bad. I didn't look bad. It wasn't anything that I was ashamed of. I just had gained weight. And I think at this point I was back to like size 12, maybe. So going from 7, 8 all the way back to a 12, 13. And if you think of like body type, it's really, I'm 5'5", right? It's really not that bad. Fast forward, I meet my husband, we go on dates, we, get married. At this point, I'm still around that same size 12, 13 pants. And fast forward, we get pregnant, have the twins. So after I had the twins, we decided that we were going to be vegan, right? I wanted to give my kids this life of knowing, like their taste buds, knowing what vegetables really tasted like and fruits. And I didn't want them being addicted to McDonald's and Happy Meals. That's not what I wanted for my kids. So we decided as a family to go vegan. Now, we also decided as a family, mostly me, decided that I wanted to be a surrogate. I talked about this in one of the podcast episodes with Christina Singh, where I decided to become a surrogate. And I've talked about it on this podcast very, very early on. Actually, yeah, you can find it in an old episode, season 1. Anyways, being a surrogate, attempting to be a surrogate is what I should say. It was a lot of fun, but I think one of the truths about being a surrogate that you don't 100% know until you're in the process of the roller coaster of emotions to even get chosen to be a surrogate it's out of this world. Crazy. You finally get chosen. You start the process of making sure that your uterus is what it's supposed to be doing. And there's injections, there are medications, you have to go on, you have to go on medications, all of these hormones that you have to go through in order to house a child that is not yours. It's a process. And in the middle of that process, number one, they weigh you at the very beginning to make sure that you're where you need to be at. And then after that one weigh-in, they don't weigh you again for that purpose. For like, hey, are you still in the, weight range? Okay. So they weighed me. Obviously, I made the cut, whatever. And we started the whole process. At the end of, I want to say 3 months of trying to get pregnant with a baby that's not mine. It was an emotional toll. It was a physical toll. It was heart-wrenching. And at the end of those 3 months, the parents decided to move on to another surrogate because the lining of my uterus wasn't thick enough, which I could not understand. Until this day, I don't understand how my uterus was incompetent to this doctor when I had successfully carried twins to full term without any complications. So I don't know. I don't know if the powers above were playing a part in me not moving forward with the surrogacy, but all of that all of the emotions, all of the stress, all of the anxiety became this monster that was overbearingly looming over me 24/7, 365 at that point of my life. So at that point, I actually turned back to the honey bun. I went back to it. And I hadn't realized it. I hadn't pinpointed that when I go through stress, I seek regulation. And instead of acknowledging that I'm stressed, instead of acknowledging that I needed that regulation, because I didn't know, I couldn't pinpoint what was going on. I just knew I needed to be alone, and I knew I needed to feel better. And so therefore I would go, hey, I need to run to the store for something. I'd go down to the store, grab a honey bun and whatever that other thing was. And I would quickly eat my honey bun in the car before I even started the car. And then I would drive home. And it became this horrible cycle, horrible cycle that I eventually had moved on from. Like, okay, like I ate a honey bun, I'm going to eat something else that's not vegan. And I just kind of just wound up eating crap food. And it was all because I was mourning this loss of an opportunity. Because by the time I had gotten fired as a surrogate by the intended parents, I had gained like 10 pounds trying to go through their process, that I no longer qualified to be a surrogate for anybody else until I lost the 10 pounds. And at that point, the fact that I had gotten fired as a surrogate actually took a big emotional toll on me. I couldn't find the energy to lose weight. Shortly after, I end up pregnant, but we lose the baby. So at that point, because, I was trying to be a surrogate, so we weren't on birth control, and, one thing leads to another, and a marriage, and, that was the case. And I think those two things happening very close, it was so much. It was so much for me at that time of my life that I just ate my life away. Food felt so good. And everything else was just mediocre, right? Like now that I think about it, food, the flavors of food, the comfort foods, all of those things, like it just, if there was anything that could be consistent in my life at that moment, it was my decision to put food in my mouth. Me. I decided that. Not intended parents that fired me, not life that decided to take my baby. Me. I decided to eat, to make me feel better, to have a glass of wine here and there, and maybe a beer here and there. And these decisions compounded and became something that I couldn't even deal with anymore. I slowly and quickly, if that can happen, went to a dress size that I had never been in before. And I thought something was just wrong with me, right? Because I started getting angrier and angrier. Now I'm going to kind of throw this out there that I think the foods I was eating, just the chemicals were not balancing correctly in my brain. That made me be in more of a rage. So heightened emotions of rage equaled me wanting to be in control even more, which was just this vicious cycle of harming myself with food, thinking that I was making myself feel better with food. But in the long run, I would just feel like shit, like a shitty person, a shitty mom, a shitty wife. And this cycle just continued for a whole year, I want to say, of just treating myself like complete utter shit. And I think people have breaking points. When I started my journey of just healing myself from the inside out, I've started just being very aware of my emotions. I started realizing that my children were seeing their mom be out of control with the illusion that she was in control. Because when I look back at my eating, I really thought that I was in control of the things that were going on, but I wasn't. I really wasn't. I don't think that anybody purposefully harms themselves, whether it's with food, for anybody that's addicted to food, whether it's with drugs, alcohol, shopping, right? Any of these things, any addiction that you have, that we all can have, I think we're always under this illusion that we are in control of it, when in reality we're not. We're far from that. We are being played. We're being played by ourselves. And I think that is one of the hardest things to admit, that you played yourself, right? Like, old me played me. Now that I know what I know, and that I can be more aware, now I just want to show my children that you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a bad week. You may even have a bad fucking year. But the way you treat yourself, in all sense of the word, that's really going to dictate the direction of which you want to take your life. Do you want to make your life better? Or are you pretending to make your life better? Because I've been pretending. Like, I still have moments and days where I'm pretending. And I go into these pretend phases to protect myself from whatever emotion I'm feeling in that moment. And I don't want to pretend anymore. I just want to be very consciously aware of the life that I'm building. And How might I do that? You might be asking. I actually downloaded these really cool trackers that I'm going to be using. So one of them is called a habit tracker. Now, my habit tracker has on here walking, the gym, water, food tracking, and then Momster Mondays. So what I've noticed is Mondays, any Mondays that you see me not posting, it's because I had a bad week and I went into hiding. So if you don't hear from me on a Monday, call me, text me, because yeah. Anyways, on the habit tracker, I put on the bottom, I put showing up for oneself is where the true growth is, where the true growth is started, day by day. And then I put bet on you. So my habit tracker set for December. I started these at the end of November to get them ready for a new month. And then I have a morning routine tracker. Now on here, let me show it to you. I don't know if you guys can see it. You may or may not see it, but it says meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, journaling. Now, I know it says morning routine on the top of this, but I don't necessarily have to have it done all in the morning. I think that for me, starting off by doing one thing and then adding the other stuff in there is going to be very, very helpful. And as the chapters closing of 2022 and 2023 is around the corner, I really want to focus 2023 with myself. I want to focus on myself with myself. And I don't want to play pretend anymore. I want to be an active member of creating myself. And recently, I thought that I was just alone up here. And I had even created a Bumble account thinking maybe I just need to make some friends. And I deleted my Bumble. And I came to the realization that I have this particular unique, very unique setup. And I had complained in the past and in the past recently that my kids were getting in my way. I had complained because my kids are home with me. They're not off to school yet. How can I have time for myself if I have to take care of my kids 24/7, right? All of that. And I came to this realization that, you know what? I have the opportunity. I have until August of next year, because the kids will be in school next year. I have this next first half of the year of 2023, and I'm getting emotional. I have 6 to 8 months to show my kids how to show up for yourself, how to love yourself, how to balance yourself, and how to bet on you. And I'm getting emotional right now because I want to make them so proud. And I would never wish the shit that I've gone through and what I've felt. I would never wish this on my kids or on anybody else. But if my kids ever find themselves at any stage of their life needing to focus on themselves again, I want them to have a blueprint of how to do it. And that's what I want for 2023. I don't need friends right now. New friends. And I say that very nonchalant here. I definitely like my friends. I definitely always welcome a friendship. But me trying to go out there and seek outside relationships with people that don't know me, with people that I'm going to have to start investing time to get to know, to create a friendship on Bumble. They're just distractions that are going to distract me from my ultimate goal of giving myself the love that I deserve and need. So I'm going to take this opportunity that I've been given, this time with my children. I'm going to take it and I'm really going to turn it into something that I want. And I'm so excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like my trackers are going to help me with accountability because God knows I can get fucking lost. And I'm really quick with my imagination. I'm really quick to imagine something else and start working on another project because I want out of the monotony. And the day-to-day life is what creates where you are right now. The small steps is what creates the now. So next year, I want to be having a much more fruitful conversation about the way that I've shown up in the year to myself, for myself. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So that brings us to the end of this episode. But I look forward to seeing you guys soon. And if you guys want a copy of these trackers, let me know. I will email them to you completely free. I'm not going to charge you anything, but I will definitely send them out to you guys if you want them. All right, peace out. Don't forget to love yourself every day. See you guys next Monday.